the discipline of approach to problem solving, etc.
It fundamentally is more than an accounting qualification. It actually helps you understand how to think through complexity as well as an accounting qualification.
Being a SIPFA member has supported me greatly during my career so far. SIPFA is a well-regarded qualification, and without that I would not have the role that I have now.
I've always had the confidence from being a SIPFA member that I'm a subject matter expert and that I can apply that to a wide variety of situations.
I think it's helped me develop my career path and give me that confidence to apply for things and move on as well.
One of the things that I've had the benefit of as being a SIPFA member is access to an array of talented professionals across a range of sectors.
Networking is of fundamental importance. Being a small country, it is very important for us to learn from the experience of other bigger countries.
The Future Leaders programme has helped us providing thought-provoking conversations around personal development in order to help drive the performance of the organisation forward.
SIPFA is unique in the breadth that it offers and in the preparation that it gives you.
It's been a membership that hasn't been dormant, it's always been there providing the support.
It's all about its professionalism, its trust and its integrity.
Credible, respected and reliable.
It gives you a lot as a member, but actually SIPFA also advocates for real excellence in financial management.
I am proud to be a SIPFA member.
I am proud to be a SIPFA member.
I'm proud to be a SIPFA member.
I am proud to be a SIPFA member.
I am proud to be a SIPFA member.
I am proud to be a SIPFA member.
Imagine a world without worry. A place where everyone is who they say they are. Where the people and assets most important to you are protected. A safe space. For over 3 decades, Margins ID Group and its subsidiaries have been building this world. Our state-of-the-art access control systems, asset tagging systems, and CCTV installations ensure that the assets most important to you are protected. We have designed and built award-winning national identity infrastructures, supported by our ultra-modern in-house designed and built verification system. We are the identity experts. We represent you, and we are certified to do so. Proudly, the only African facility to be certified by Intergraph at Central Banking.
Good afternoon, and welcome back from lunch. I believe you enjoyed your lunch. Our sitting arrangement would not augur well for the photography, especially those up there on my extreme right. If you could kindly come down and fill in the spaces here, and from this angle also, if you can have a concentration here, it will give us a beautiful outlook. Whilst waiting for you to fill in the gaps, there's a lady here who is at the verge of breaking her relationship. She left her promissory ring in the washroom, and I don't want you to leave the promised relationship behind in Accra, because if you go back without it, I don't know what to come out, what the outcome will be like. So please, if you left your ring in the ladies' washroom, you can see me Nicodemously, then I can just hand over to you. I don't want it to look as if you don't cherish the relationship. Yeah, thank you very much. So I'm still waiting so that you feel the portals is not having good effect on our pictures. So please, if you could fill in, those are the extrements. With all humility, please. So this session will be tackling Treasury Single Account Reform, Advancing Fiscal Discipline, Transparency, and Service Delivery. Before I invite the session chair and the discussants, we're still running behind time, so I want to plead with us that we'll go by the allotted time. The main speaker has 30 minutes. Discussants have about 5 minutes each. Then 10 minutes will be allotted for Q&A. So join me to welcome Mr. Sugani Sukali Mandala, the Accountant General of Malawi. Please, let's put our hands together for him. And I'll leave the podium into his able leadership to steer the activities for the rest of this, at least this session is concerned. Please, a round for him one more time again.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the session 3.6, which is Treasury Single Account Reform, Advancing Fiscal Discipline, Transparency, and Service Delivery. My name, once again, is Sungani Mandala. I'm the Accountant General for the Republic of Malawi. And let me introduce the main presenter of this session, who is Mr. Iyas Tofani, Regional Public Finance Management Advisor for IMF, Afritac West. Mr. Iyas Tofani, please stand up, wave the audience, and come to the stage. And our two discussants are Dr. Gilbert Nyalezibo, who is Deputy Controller and Accountant General for Treasury and ICTM Division for the Republic of Ghana. Welcome, and join me on stage. And our second discussant is Mr. Sakidadu Rapasad, who is Accountant General of Mauritius. In the interest of time, I'll invite Mr. Iyas Tofani to make his presentation, and we have only 30 minutes for this. And each discussant is going to have 7 minutes each, and then we'll move into the question and answer session, which is going to take us 10 minutes. So I'll leave the floor to our main presenter, Mr. Iyas Tofani. Let's put our hands together for our main presenter. Thank you very much. You have the floor.
So I assume it will be presented here, right? Like the presentation. The presentation will be slides. Okay. So, like, just to use the time, hello everyone, good afternoon. It's a big pleasure to be here with this very senior, experienced, knowledgeable people from all over Africa. But also it's a bit difficult for me, like to talk about something that I assume you are quite knowledgeable and well experienced. but I will try to do my best just to, sorry? I could, but I don't know.
Na eba no say no do pay na mi ne ya edruboni na mi numwana anase mi kwasha konfo se obi do wa nwana.
So should I start to tell or I think they didn't reflect the presentation. I think I can start
Okay, please.
Sorry for the inconvenience. I think there is a problem with the reflection of presentation. So maybe I can start by introducing myself and maybe some general issues. So in the meantime, we can reflect the presentation, I hope. So my name is İlyas Tufan. I am the regional PFM advisor at IMF Afritac West 2. I'm covering 6 countries in the West Africa region. I'm mostly focusing on downstream PFM issues like TSA, cash management, budget execution, accounting, chart of accounts, and reporting. So in this regard, I'm working very closely with the accountant general departments in the region, since the topics are mostly somehow kind of related to the functions of accountant general departments. And I worked for a while as an IMF expert. I was the regional resident PFM advisor at Sierra Leone. Beforehand, I was working for the Ministry of Treasury and Finance in Turkey, or Turkey now. I was the head of cash management department, and also afterwards I became the director general of that office. So actually in my country, I led the new TSA system project from its idea stage to the finalization and implementation stage. So I'm quite aware of the challenges which I experienced too much, during the implementation, which I could share.
He should engage the audience and I will take it. So you can use your microphone and you fix them. Is it type C or
Actually, I sent this presentation.
Sorry about that. What we are doing here, we're trying to make sure that we beam the presentation on the 2 screens. So just bear with us just for 2 minutes or so. Then we're going to resume with the presentation. Thank you.
The world's facing challenges that none of us have seen.
The obvious biggest challenge is the ongoing challenge of global uncertainty.
There's the uncertainty of what the funding looks like going forward. It makes financial planning very difficult.
How do we start to make decisions that look at sustainability and what we're doing to the climate?
Basically coping with a lot of uncertainty, but yet having to make really important decisions.
And it's really just going to be so essential to ensure that public money is well spent.
I was attracted to SIFA initially because in a way we shared the same mission. Our work is to ensure that public finance is done in a good way according to the fundamental values of good governance.
SIFA people are trusted, the qualification is trusted.
As soon as you mentioned the word SIFA, you have a credibility and people understand the professionalism that brings, the discipline of approach to problem solving, etc.
It fundamentally
Hello
is more than
again,
an
sorry
account.
for the inconvenience. So, yeah, great. So, do we have any? Yeah, great. So, sorry again for the inconvenience. These technological things can happen, so thank you for your patience. So I just, came up with a little bit comprehensive presentation, but don't feel discouraged. I will just try to focus on the key areas that may kind of provide much more kind of value in terms of experience sharing. But before going into that, I just would like to ask, as an individual, forget about your roles, have you ever paid interest to others for your own money? Like for your own cash, did you pay any interest to other people? I assume no, but as governments, we do it quite often. So, actually the lack of TSA means that as governments, we are paying for our own money to other people, which are generally the commercial banks. So basically, it is that important, not having a proper, comprehensive TSA system leads to kind of unwanted, inefficient consequences. So in this presentation, I will try to focus on the TSA as a concept, its key features, how it affects the overall PFM system, what is the ideal coverage of TSA, what is the ideal location of the TSA, and how country practices in terms of the TSA models can be different from country to another country. So let me start with the TSA concept. Of course, you are all aware of the concept, but just maybe kind of establish a clear perspective on that. So basically, when we talk about TSA, we don't talk about a single account. We are talking about actually a group of accounts most of the time, which operates in a unified manner. So you can have a TSA. In this TSA, you can have thousands of accounts. As long as they are working in a unified manner and it enables the consolidation of cash, then that's a TSA. It may be a single account, but we see it rarely in small countries, maybe very centralized. But generally, we see a group of bank accounts which are connected to each other, which are working on a unified manner. So basically what it enables, actually, what is the major difference? It distinguishes the overall cash management from transaction level control. In the old days, we were using bank accounts for controlling our transactions. So there were bank accounts dedicated to each MDA or each type of expenditure. And we were controlling our expenditures through these bank accounts. But with the adoption of TSA in the modern era, now we don't need it, actually. We use the TSA for the efficient overall cash management. So when we talk about TSA, actually, we are talking about three core pictures. So if you ask these questions to you and you get a positive answer, then you have a proper TSA. So one aspect is, of course, fungibility. What do we mean by fungibility? Actually, whatever the system we have, whatever the model we have, it can vary from country to country. As long as we have a top TSA account, which is linked with all the cash in the system, then we can talk about fungibility. In other words, it means that any cash somewhere in the system can be used for another purpose, then we can talk about fungibility. If it is kept there and we cannot touch it, then we cannot talk about fungibility. Another aspect is treasury oversight. So, I mean, the bank accounts could belong to MDAs. They can operate the bank accounts. But as long as we have a control or oversight of treasury on these accounts, then it is we just cover the prerequisite for a TSA system. And the third component is comprehensive coverage. What we mean that, okay, we have budgetary central government, we have autonomous entities, we have extra budgetary funds, etc. But the important thing is, in order to come up with a proper TSA, we need to have the utmost comprehensive coverage that we can. So in this regard, it should cover ideally whole central government, more ideally whole general government, and also if we have, for instance, non-commercial SOEs, which are not commercial SOEs, we don't include them. Ideally, all the public sector apart from commercial SOEs. But it really depends on the country context. So what are the benefits of a TSA system? Of course, the ultimate objective is always efficient cash management and having minimum level of idle resources. But of course, it creates other benefits also for the overall PFM system. So first, it ensures aggregate control over cash balances, allows a complete information about our cash resources. It improves operational control during budget execution. Of course, we have a TSA and all the flows throughout the TSA is visible now. Of course, it enables efficient cash management, which is our ultimate objective. And you know, sometimes we are paying, in Turkey we were like that, we were paying like different MDAs, paying like transaction fees for their banking operations. Since you group consolidate all the cash, now you are dealing with single party. And it's an economies of scale there. So it reduces these type of fees. It also facilitates efficient payment mechanisms and fast. We have cash somewhere, a farmer in the region far away from the capital waiting for cash, and we have another cash there, but we cannot send it. Why? We don't have a TSA. So in this regard, it's quite important for the service delivery. It improves bank reconciliation, which may be a problem, especially in the region, most of the time. Of course, it lowers our liquidity needs. Because, for instance, in some countries, they have huge amount of cash, but they are kept at separate accounts which you cannot touch. So you need a high level of cash to manage your operations. But when we talk about a TSA, we can talk about a lower cash need, which means a lower cash buffer for our operations. And of course, it improves transparency on our transactions. So in this regard, it touches different parts of the PFM system. Of course, it is the ultimate objective is cash management, but we are affecting different parts of the PFM system. We have a better budget execution and control. We have a more efficient borrowing because now we don't need to borrow too much for our short-term needs. We are already has a fungible resource there. Revenue administration, now we don't have like separate bank accounts for revenue collection of MDAs, which we expect them to come to our main account. Accounting, public investment management, fiscal risk management, all these areas somehow benefiting from the existence of a proper TSA. And at the end of the day, we have an improved fiscal transparency and public trust. So what are the prerequisites for establishing an effective TSA? These can be regarded as soft issues, but this is quite important on the way. So first, having a clear policy objective. What are you planning to achieve with the TSA? Okay, as we know, efficient utilization of our cash resources, improved borrowing and debt management by decreasing the borrowing costs, improving our budget execution processes, so on. Second important issue with the TSA strategy is what will be our coverage, okay? This is quite important, and it varies from country to country. So what are the institutions? Will autonomous bodies inside the TSA or extra budgetary funds How about social security institutions? How about local governments? This is the critical question. And which entities or accounts will be outside the TSA? And what is the rationale behind that? Ideally, from cash management efficiency perspective, the broader the TSA, the more efficient the cash management system. But sometimes having a very broad system can have also some challenges and some kind of negative impacts. So in this regard, you need to define the optimal TSA coverage. Again, the third component is TSA design. It should be part of our TSA strategy. Will it be a centralized TSA? I will discuss about it. Or a decentralized TSA? How will the banking architecture? Will there be accounts at the central bank? Will there be sub-accounts? Will there be commercial bank accounts which are being swept to the TSA account every day? And the roadmap. The roadmap is quite important. I wish we could have all the entities and accounts within the TSA in one day, but it generally doesn't happen like that. So you need to have a wise plan, clear roadmap with phases, starting with pilot implementations, clear timelines, responsibilities, who will do what, and the resource needs to complete these processes. Also, effective institutional arrangements and coordination is quite critical. Of course, as Ministry of Finance, treasuries, / accountant general departments, we are the core responsible. We are the leader. We are the boss of this system. Okay, we define the policy. We are the oversight body, and we lead the operational management. But we have critical stakeholders. Without them, we cannot operate, to be honest. In Turkey, I feel that, the importance of stakeholders quite a lot. So the first one is, of course, central bank, because it's our fiscal agent, main banker, and all the banking operations are generally run by central bank. But these two guys are quite critical. This can act as the most impeding factors, the MDAs and the commercial banks. MDAs, generally are quite reluctant to be part of the TSA because they lose the comfort they enjoy in different aspects. And the commercial banks, they can also be a problem if you cannot convince them in the system to be part of the system. Because, they are losing the cash normally that they are enjoying most of the time without paying a market interest rate or not interest at all. But there are ways to also make them convinced, to be convinced for the efficiency of the system. And of course, in most of the cases, and we advise, having an interagency TSA committee that will guide the whole process, that will foster the coordination, that will solve the problems within the stakeholders, generally composed of different parties that I explained as stakeholders. Of course, strong governance mechanism is critical. What I mean by that? A clear legal and regulatory framework. So in Turkey, when we just introduced this new TSA system idea to the top management, they told me that, okay, as Treasury, we have the right to dictate to the MDAs in which banks, in which conditions to invest their cash. And I said that it's not enough. They said, no, we can do that. I somehow convinced the top management and said we came up with a clear legal framework which gives a clear authority to Treasury. And you know what happened? We just started the system and one MDA came and didn't transfer its cash to the Treasury account. We came together with them, even there is a clear legal background. One of them resisted. And they sued us to the High Court because they claimed that Treasury doesn't have the right. Of course, we won at the end the case. But suppose if we didn't have a clear legal framework, how many MDAs will resist to be part of the TSA? So in this regard, it is quite critical. TSA operational guidelines. This is the kind of backbone of the system because it regulates or it determines the overall day-to-day process flow, transactions, timings. So we need to have a detailed, clear operational guidelines. Of course, reporting is an important part, especially to ensure the visibility on cash balances, and also regarding the development of the TSA system, to the top management or external oversight bodies. Of course, the linkage between the TSA operations and internal control is critical, internal control mechanism. And also, as Treasury, as Minister of Finance, we need to have the mechanism to enforce closure of bank accounts which are not authorized by the Treasury. Also, if there is any stakeholder or any counterparty which is not compliant with the system, we need to have strong sanction mechanisms. Also, I mean, as a Accountant General Department, I cannot, tell you more about this. You're already very aware. So, a credible, well-functioning IFMIS system, because we run all the transactions in this IFMIS system, in the relevant modules of IFMIS system. So, these modules like commitment, payments, revenue modules, to be integrated with the TSA system is a must. Again, the other thing is connection with between the IFMIS and the central bank systems, either through APIs or electronic data exchanges. Also, having a proper core banking system at the central bank is a kind of critical factor. For instance, I worked in Iraq for TSA, and they didn't have a core banking system. And we had a kind of, we had to come up with the innovative solutions to accompany the non-existence of core banking system. Of course, it's not ideal, but at least it provides, it provided some basic features of the TSA system. And of course, cybersecurity and data integrity is quite critical between the integration between regarding integration between the system. So TSA coverage, it is quite critical, as I said, and it varies from country to country, and the country context determines the ideal coverage. As I set the principle. The broader the coverage, the more efficient the cash management system. But sometimes you need to consider some other factors. So what do we mean by coverage? Which type of institutions will be part of the TSA? Revolving funds, extra budgetary funds, autonomous entities, local governments, etc. Also, another aspect, which type of accounts? Of course, the most easy one is the budgetary central government accounts, right? For budgetary transactions. But we have also other type of accounts. Escrow accounts, trust accounts, project accounts. Will they be part of the TSA? Ideally, yes or no. So this should be clear in the TSA strategy. But when we look at the worldwide examples, we see a general clear tendency. So as you see, the blue ones are the ones inside the TSA. So in most of the countries, nearly all of the countries, as a primary prerequisite, all the central government is inside the TSA. Budgetary central government and extra budgetary central government. So this is the must, this is the line. Afterwards the practice varies. So in some countries, for instance, social security institutions are outside the TSA. In many countries, local governments, subnational governments are outside the TSA. It really depends, because, for instance, in a federal context, maybe it is difficult to have, or if you have too many local governments, it's difficult to implement. But in some countries, they have a centralized history, centralized tradition, and from the history, the local governments are somehow treated as a MDA. So in these countries, they are generally inside the TSA. For SOEs, especially for the commercial ones, because of their financial autonomy, we advise to keep them out. But there are some SOEs, which are legally SOEs. You may have it, I assume, but actually they work like general government entities. They rely on subsidies from central government. These are actually statistically not SOEs. So if we have like these SOEs, which acts as like a kind of general government entity, then they should be part of the TSA ideally. I don't want to go into detail. Actually, this is the mainstream steps that we need to implement if we want to extend our TSA, if we want to extend the coverage of TSA. And actually, this is the actual roadmap that we just followed in Turkey also. So don't worry about each detailed step, but there are 5 components, always with the hierarchical order. First, the preparation of the project. Who will be part of the project? What will be the task force? What will be the key stakeholders? Will there be a committee? What will be the design of the TSA? A centralized TSA, a decentralized TSA? How will be the banking architecture will operate and designed? This is the first. And based on that, the legal and regulatory framework. PFM Act, most of the time, maybe a specific act on TSA, maybe Public Debt Management Act, depending on your context. Regulations and operational guidelines. So these are the constitute the legal and regulatory framework component. Of course, payment and accounting infrastructure as a third component. Banking arrangements, commercial banks, central bank, how the accounts will operate. And finally, operationalization of the system. Always I recommend to start with a pilot implementation and move from easy to difficult. What I mean is that, and you know, this will be quite helpful, and generally you see that in practice. So please, I mean, we need to give the priority to the easy ones to take in first, and we need to move to the more complex ones. What I mean is that the priority should be given to the MDAs which have lower number of bank accounts already, only have local currency resources, because foreign exchange currencies, foreign currencies could complicate the picture a little bit, which are already in the IFMIS, which have less volatile cash flow pattern. It will make it easy, because otherwise it is much more difficult, which have bulky cash amount sitting in a single account. This is the most tasty ones. Like, I like it most because they have bulky amount of cash and you can easily incorporate, and they have less number of bank accounts and less legal or regulatory constraints. So in this regard, generally in the first phase we consider the budgetary central government, because even for budgetary central government they may have bank accounts which are not part of the TSA. So the first focus should be on that. Afterwards, central government autonomous bodies, which are normally outside the TSA, extra budgetary funds, social security funds followingly, hopefully donor-funded project accounts in local currency, and finally the most difficult ones, foreign exchange accounts, local governments, depending on your context, or third-party trust accounts and other special accounts. So I don't need to discuss that much, and just to say that, like, in NEIL, this is from a survey, apart from very exceptional countries in Latin America, like Argentina, Chile, countries in all over the world, including Europe, Asia, Middle East, they all keep their TSAs at their central bank. But there are some exceptions. Why it is important? First, it is your main counterparty. It is much more easy to coordinate between the fiscal policies and processes and the banking side. Another important thing, you don't have a credit risk. With commercial banks, you are dealing with the credit risk, because at the end of the day, they can go default. As I said, the model depends on the country context, but we can talk about three models actually. A centralized model. In the centralized is the main actor. They receive the payment requests from MDAs and do the payments from the TSA on a central manner. This is the centralized model. We have also decentralized models. In this model, each MDA have their bank accounts, but somehow at the end of the day, if there is any cash at these accounts, are swept back to the treasury single account. Again, this is a TSA, okay? And there is also, like, again, full cash management efficiency, as long as there is no idle cash. And we have many countries applying that model. And in Turkey, we have an old TSA system since 1972. So it was fully centralized model. But its coverage was very limited, because it was only covering budgetary central government accounts. So what we said, like, I was the leader of the project since the beginning. We said that we have many accounts outside, and now we need to consolidate. But our objective is not to control their expenditures or their day-to-day transactions. what we need to do is just to consolidate the cash. I need the cash. I don't care about what their expenditures are. So this enabled us to come up with different type of institutions. And for the sake of flexibility, we came up with a decentralized model. So the left-hand side is the old TSA. It's still operating for the budgetary central government. It's fully centralized. It works on the central bank accounts fully, nearly. And all the MD accounts are transit accounts. But in the new model, on the right-hand side, the payments accounts are at one of the public banks because they were more flexible to implement this system. So we have a Ziraat Bank, which is the biggest public bank. So the payment accounts of the institutions are there. They are managing their own accounts during the daytime. But what they do, they come to our TSA system and write on a daily basis how much cash they need. And we send that cash to their accounts. And if there is any account in the system, then it is swept back to the treasury single account. So again, there is full cash management efficiency. But we don't care about their day-to-day expenditures or revenues, as long as it comes to me at the day end in the same day. So just to give you an idea, and they are fungible within each other. At any time, I can use the cash in the old TSA system for the new TSA system purposes, any second, and the vice versa. And also regarding bank account structure, you can have a centralized system, a centralized distribution of bank accounts, which are all in the central bank, or you can have a distributed model or a hybrid model, where some of the bank accounts are at the commercial banks. So basically, to have a full cash management efficiency, we should have no idle cash. But there is not a single way to do that, as I described. You can have sweeping arrangements, which means if there is any cash in the system at the end, it is automatically swept back to the treasury single account. This is the first option. You can have just-in-time solution. What does it mean? You can only transfer cash as much as the payment requests in the system. Even if you want to, you cannot send cash more than what is accumulated in the system as payment request. So at any time in the day, the cash amount released from treasury single account and the payment request match 100% within each other. So there is no idle cash. This is our old model. And the third model is, especially implemented in Pakistan, India, Britain, etc. You have notional zero balance accounts at the commercial banks. They don't keep physically cash. Only the spending limits are defined in these bank accounts. So it gives during the daytime negative balances, but at the day end, they are reimbursed from the TSA. So it's another way of keeping no idle cash. So as you see, there is not only one single option. And when it comes to banking architecture, as I said, we can have a centralized bank accounting, centralized TSA. We have a main TSA account. In some cases like Georgia, Albania, which are small countries, they have only one TSA account. And they deal all the operation with the ledger accounts in the IFMIS. But it's not always feasible in all the contexts. So you can have sub-TSA accounts. But the important thing, the cash transferred from TSA is managed centrally. Another system is we call it pyramid TSA. It's not a kind of, this main TSA account keeps the cash physically, but it's just a reporting account. So it is the total of the whole cash in the system. And you have different accounts like project accounts, impressed accounts, which have balances. But the main treasury single account, as long as the total system balance is above zero, can give negative balance. So indirectly, it can use the cash in the system without the physical transfer to the treasury main account. And in most of the countries in the region, we have this logic. So basically, we have ways and means limits, and the ways and means limits consider the overall balance in the system, not the treasury main account, most of the case, if you have a TSA. So this is this system. And finally, we can have a decentralized TSA with zero balance notional accounts. So how it operates, we have a main TSA account, we have a sub-TSA account for payments at the central bank, and at the commercial banks, we have payment accounts for each entity. But these payment accounts are linked to a main settlement account in that commercial bank. So MDAs make their spending during the day, their cash balances give negative balances, and it is consolidated in the settlement account. So the total negative cash balance is reimbursed from the TSA account, account at the central system, sub-account for payments, and they just reconcile with each other, and at the day end, the negative balance is clear. So this is another option, and it's widely seen in countries. So just to have the overall picture, so TSA is the most critical first step for effective cash management system. Whatever system, you have always asked these three questions. Do we have a fungibility, unified structure? I'm finishing. Treasury oversight and comprehensive coverage. And the TSA contributes to other PFM areas, as we have seen. We need to have a clear TSA strategy and legal and governance mechanisms. It can take different forms, but the main features are all the same. It can function with different type of centralized or decentralized banking architectures. So thank you very much for your attention. And sorry if I used the time more than it was allocated. And I hope, in terms of giving some insights from different parts of the world, it was helpful. Thank you very much. Sorry.
Thank you very much. Our presentation has taken longer than the allocated time, so we move straight into to have our two discussants. The first one is going to be Dr. Gilbert Nyalezibo, who is going to share some insights, challenges, and experiences with the implementation of the Treasury Single Account for the Republic of Ghana. You have the floor, Doctor.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. Presenter, for the detailed presentation on the Treasury Single Account. Ladies and gentlemen, what I am going to do, we'll be looking at how we started the TSA in Ghana, what we have done so far, and where we want to get to. Without wasting my time, let me say that in Ghana, Ghana entered into an agreement with the IMF. That was in 2015. And one of the conditions was that central bank will no longer finance governments. It means that central bank will no longer lend monies to governments. So it became necessary that the government of Ghana will have to utilize the internal resources basically for most of the things, because since you are not getting support from the central bank, it means that you have to rely on your internal resources. So that is how come the thinking of the Treasury Single Account started. And because of this concept, in 2016, the Public Financial Management Act was passed. And in that act, there was a provision for the establishment of the Treasury Single Account. So I can say that in Ghana, since 2016, when the law, that is the PFM Act, was passed, the Treasury Single Account was part of the Act, and it started from there. Now, apart from the Act that established the Treasury Single Account, We also have other laws that backed the establishment of the TSA. Even the regulations that we have emphasized the need for the establishment of the TSA. Now, to agree with the presenter, before you can implement a successful TSA, there should be a framework. There should be a roadmap. So what we did in Ghana was to develop a TSA strategy. And that strategy was not developed just at the departmental level. It was presented and approved by the highest authority of government, that is Cabinet. So Cabinet in 2016 approved the TSA strategy. And in the TSA strategy, we have all the things that we have to do as far as the TSA implementation is concerned. Now, the presenter also mentioned the types of TSA, either centralized or decentralized. In Ghana, we have adopted the decentralized system. We don't have a single bank account where all government resources are kept. We have a number of accounts, even at the entity levels. What we are doing, or we have done, is that there should be the possibility of having that is a consolidated view, even though the accounts may be many. If you look at Ghana, we have accounts with the central bank, and we have a number of accounts with the commercial banks. But at the end of the day, the concept for the TSA is to be able to view or have consolidated view of all these accounts wherever they are located. That was our approach. That was the strategy we adopted. Now, there's something that we also did or realized in Ghana that helped us so much. That is to utilize technology in assessing or having a consolidated view of the bank accounts in either the Bank of Ghana or the commercial banks. Because the accounts are many. If you look at the number of bank accounts in Ghana now, we are getting over 10,000 bank accounts. And it will be difficult to manage them manually. So what we did was to use technology to be able to view all these bank accounts at both the central bank and then the commercial banks. But let me say that for the central bank, we are able to view all the bank accounts, the balances, and are able to know at each point in time the amount of monies we have in all the bank accounts in the central bank. But when it comes to these commercial banks, that is where we have a little challenge. But as we speak, we have managed to develop a system. The system has been tested and now ready to be deployed. And that system will enable us view or have access to all accounts with the commercial banks. So if we are able to do that, it means that any account that belongs to government, we can sit at the Comptroller and Accountant General's office and then assess those accounts. Now, there's the issue of coverage. In Ghana, the nature of our laws is such that some bank accounts cannot be accessed easily. The concept of TSA is that if you don't have enough cash resources at the central level, you should be able to view or access the account of all entities in the public service so that you can utilize them as and when you require them or you need them, so that if you generate revenues, you can replace those monies that you transferred. That is better than going to the market to borrow the monies at a cost. So the concept we are using is that even though you can go to the market and borrow, it comes with a cost. But if government agencies have resources, idle funds sitting in their bank account, why not utilize them? And those ones don't come with any cost. And when you are able to utilize them to meet your expenditures, it means that you can get those resources without cost, and then at the end of the day, you should be able to refund those monies to those institutions. Now, there are some accounts that we can't touch. There are some accounts that are governed by strict laws. If you take the contingency fund that Parliament of Ghana has established, you can't put that account into the TSA, because before you will transfer any monies from that account, you must go to Parliament. We have accounts for managing oil revenues. There are strict laws governing the receipt of those revenues and then distribution of those revenues. So it will be difficult to include such accounts into the TSA. So those ones are excluded. Now, let me mention something that will be of interest to all of us. The TSA is said that you are able to access accounts of other entities and then utilize them. The question is that when they also need those funds, will they be able to get it? Will government be able to refund those monies on time? That comes with the issue of trust, because that is the challenge we are having. We take monies from the accounts, and if we are not able to refund those monies, then it becomes a challenge between the central government and then the various entities. Now, the final thing I want to say is that in managing TSA, it is supposed to be done systematically. And I mentioned that it should be done using technology, but how we want to go is that we want to utilize GIFMIS, as the presenter said. We want to make sure that at the end of the day, all bank accounts, whether at the central bank or the commercial banks, are defined on GIFMIS, so that all of them will have their cash books, all of them will have their ledgers, so that we will be using the cash book balances which are real, rather than using the bank statement balances which may have issues of payments in transit issues and co. So these are things that we want to do to ensure that we have an effective treasury account system. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll proceed with our second discussant, Mr. Rapasad. You have 3 minutes. Time is not on our side. Okay. Proceed.
So good afternoon, everyone. In the interest of time, so just tell me how much time I have. 5 minutes? So that I will be within that time. So how much time I have? 10 minutes? 5 minutes. Okay, thank you very much. So in Mauritius, I'm just sharing my experience from Mauritius. We have been using Treasury Single Account since 2001. At that time, we had only one account, the domestic currency, which was at the central bank. But the issue was, when we were receiving foreign currencies, we had to sell that foreign currency with the central bank. And when we have to pay in foreign currency our debt, so we have to buy from central bank. So who was winning? It was the central bank who was the winner. So ultimately, we realized that we have to open foreign currency accounts, because donor agencies, they provide us foreign currency grants. So we opened 6 foreign currency accounts: dollar, euro, Japanese yen, South African rand, Swiss franc, and there's one GBP. So these foreign currency accounts help us to make a forecast on our foreign currency payments. Among the 19 ministries and departments that we have, only 8 self-accounting, they are autonomous, they have their bank account, but the money doesn't land in their account. They prepare all the payments, they send all the payments to the treasury, we effect the payment for them, directly from the central bank to the commercial banks, by way of internet banking. So, what the use of having their own account, those 8 ministries, big ministries like education, health, so it is only for check payments, because some of the beneficiaries, they don't have bank account, but we are encouraging that they should have bank accounts so that we can transfer electronically in the bank account. So we are reducing the number of checks issued. And this has been, if you're going to visit our website, you'll find that there has been a significant reduction in the issue of checks payment to beneficiaries. We have a good system of cash management because we are using our IFMIS Oracle based, Oracle Financial, version 12. So all the ministries and departments, they are connected to that system. And once the budget is prepared, we have a book, separate book, where we prepare a forecast on a monthly basis for the 12 months ahead. That 12 months budget is further split into weekly estimates, forecast. And then ultimately we cascade down to daily. So we meet with the central bank on a weekly basis to decide on our borrowing requirements. So in this way, we minimize the borrowing requirement of government and also paying interest on our own account. Because if I give, let's say for example, an SOE, a certain amount, and that is idle in the bank account, but I need money here, I will have to borrow from the market. So in fact, what I am doing, I am paying interest on my own money. So this we have been able to control, and only the Accountant General in Mauritius has the opportunity, the privilege to open the account. So the richest position in government is the Accountant General, because other officers, they are not required to open any bank account in the name, only the Accountant General. So all the accounts that are open, it is the name of the Accountant General. So we have a control of the cash of the government. So I think this is basically how we operate. And we, since I would say 2001, one time we had recourse to advances. And you know, when we have advances with the central bank, it means printing of money. And the moment you print money, your inflation rate rises. So this is a thing that we control. We don't take advances from the central bank. Okay? So we borrow, like for example, for long term, even for short term, treasury bill, treasury notes, but we minimize that issue of advances. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. This is a very, very important topic and a reform area for public finance management. I know you have a lot of questions that you might want to ask, but I only invite 2 questions, 2 serious questions. Can I see 2 serious hands for questions? Or should I remove the glasses? I'm not seeing any hand. Okay, the first one. That's second hand. Okay. All right, let's start with.
Okay.
Do you have a mic? Okay, proceed, please.
Okay, my name is Marlene Mangazi from Malawi. I want to understand more on how we can control inflation in terms of minimizing advances as we manage our treasury in terms of single treasury account as a country. Thank you.
So if I got the question correctly, is how do we do to minimize the advances? So first of all, you should have a good forecasting system, cash flow management system. Because if you don't manage your cash flow properly, you run the risk of having recourse to advances from the central bank. So by giving money to SOEs, to statutory bodies, you have to ensure that they don't have surplus cash in their bank account. Because SOEs are outside your control. They keep their own account. But as far as ministries, departments are concerned, the moment you centralize all the payments to the treasury, you will have control over those ministries and departments. And even for the bank reconciliation, as far as possible, you have to minimize issuing checks. Because nowadays we are living in a digital world, and why not each and every beneficiary should have a bank account so that you can transfer directly to the bank account. And even for the revenue authority, they can control those beneficiaries by way of how much money is credited in the account. And they have to declare. Yesterday we have seen about the illicit funds transfer. So the moment you have proper system in place, definitely you'll be able to minimize your idle cash. And secondly, I can take an example. Recently, I have been to UK. I took money, GBP, pound sterling, but when I went there, they don't use cash. Everything is digital. Payment by mobile, electronic. Even when you hire a Uber, you have to pay electronically. So why not we take example of others? We are not copying, but we are trying to improve ourselves, making more reforms on our system. Thank you very much. If it addresses this, your question, sorry.
Second question. I saw a hand this side.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Amond Liwayo. I'm an Ipsos consultant. I would like to say I actually really enjoyed this session on TSA accounts, the main speaker and the two discussants. I learned a lot. I've got a question, maybe the first question to the main speaker. You actually showed the step-by-step approach to implementing the TSA accounts. I was just asking, in your practice, have you identified a government entity or a government that is maybe on step 3 for step 1, and how have you addressed that concern? And maybe the second question also is, you did show how the government of Estonia, the other governments are doing in terms of the coverage of their bank accounts. Do you also have something on Africa? Maybe the other discussants on Mauritius and Ghana can give insight onto how they are addressing their bank accounts. Is it also for central government, extra budgetary entities, state-owned enterprises? What is your context like for the government of Ghana and Mauritius? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think both of them are quite critical questions, especially the first one related to first one. As I said, the objective should be from the most easy ones to the most difficult and complex ones. Of course, we have identified while we are just like starting to implement. So there are a couple of critical issues there. So for instance, we started with an extra budgetary fund. It was defense fund, like it was supporting defense industry. But why we selected that? Because they had very minimum number of bank accounts, they had huge amount of cash, and all their bank accounts were at the central bank. So it was quite easy, the easiest one to start with, and it was also good for us to show the impact, so that we can get the more support to continue with the others. Afterwards, we continue step by step by increasing the difficulty. For instance, we continued with some regulatory bodies, extra budgetary autonomies, because they were, again, simple bank account structures. They had positive cash flow, okay? and they were easy to manage, small enterprise, small entities. Afterwards, we continued, third step, universities. They were benefiting support from government. They were many, but we knew that if we start with one university and replicate it to other universities as phases, then it will be effective. So we did it. We started with one university as a pilot, implemented the system there, and we replicated phases by phases. Let's say in first phases 10 university, afterwards 20 university, like that. So this is the logical approach. Your second question about the region. Oh, actually, what I observe in the region, I also worked, like for instance, in Sierra Leone. All countries are somehow ambition plan or ongoing reform to expand the coverage of the TSA. The general approach is, at the minimum, we have the treasury main account and some debt management accounts comprising the primitive TSA at the minimum. But we have also some other accounts. For instance, in Sierra Leone, they implemented in phases, and they incorporated subvented agency accounts, which were, and also they have like regulatory bodies, as I said, just in the Turkey's case, which they call TSA agencies. They also become road maintenance fund, for instance. It was outside as an extra budgetary fund. They incorporated that. So this is a kind of ongoing reform process, which is valid for like most of the countries in the region, but they are in different steps of this reform process. But the objective is the same. Generally, our objective is to cover the whole central government at the minimum with budgetary and extra budgetary accounts of all the institutions.
Thank you very much. Our main speaker and the two discussants are still around. They hang around for the next 30 minutes. So those of us who still have questions or would like to seek some clarifications regarding the implementation of TSA, please don't hesitate, but meet them at the back of the hall. So this brings us to the end of our session. And again, let's put our hands together for our main speaker and the two discussants. Thank you very much. We can take leave. Thank you.
We'll take the kind generosity of AG Cameroon to do some presentations for our chair, our discussants, and our main speaker for us. Then we'll take some pictures for the... Please, can you bring the bags? Yeah, in each of them. You get one. Yeah, please. So one to each person.